Last Diddy recording played in trial.
George Clooney did not just testify. He shattered Hollywood's illusion of safety. In a courtroom packed with press, security, and silence, the world's most charming actor exposed something no one saw coming. Not a scandal, a system. And it all began beneath a place millions take their children every year. A place where innocence and entertainment are sold side by side. But Clooney says what he found underground was nothing short of a nightmare.
Diddy party I went to was at Prince's house. So you want to go to Prince's house to the Diddy party where Tyrese is performing and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are swinging on swings. That is what's happening on the other side of the wall. And so the one thing that makes this party different than a Jamie Foxx party or any other celebrity party that wrangles a bunch of young women or guys or whatever too, is that Diddy didn't let you bring your security.
It was day 17 of the Diddy trial. Reporters expected another faded executive or a former associate looking for immunity. But when the courtroom doors opened, the room froze. George Clooney, Oscar winner, humanitarian, the face of justice, walked in wearing a dark suit and a heavy silence. Even the stenographer's fingers paused. He did not speak to anyone. He did not look at Diddy. He just walked to the stand. And when he finally spoke, the courtroom changed. "I never imagined I'd be here," he began, "but there are things I've seen, things I cannot carry anymore." What he described was not a tabloid headline. It was a network, hidden, protected, global. Clooney explained how he was pulled into Diddy's circle over a decade ago. First it was the parties, then private retreats. Eventually it became darker, exclusive invitations that came without names or addresses. One night in 2013, an unmarked envelope arrived. Inside was a GPS coordinate, a time, 2 a.m., and nothing else. He thought it was a prank until a text followed. "Follow the coordinates. Wear black. No phone." Curiosity outweighed caution. He got in a black SUV, drove through back alleys and industrial streets. They stopped at the parking garage of a world-famous theme park, the kind with roller coasters, fireworks, smiling mascots. "That was the first time I entered the cave," Clooney said, "and I've never looked at Hollywood the same way since." He was led through a hidden service door. A silent hallway, flickering lights, unmarked checkpoints guarded by men who didn't speak. Not bodyguards, he said. They were something else, cold, efficient, and they knew exactly who I was. Finally, he reached it, a metal hatch. It hissed open. And beyond it was something that looked like a scene from a sci-fi horror film. Only it was real, and the people inside were some of the most powerful names in the world. Inside the metal hatch was a vast underground chamber carved into the earth. Soft ambient lighting pulsed like a heartbeat. Music echoed through hidden speakers. Clooney saw celebrities, politicians, athletes, all in robes, all sipping from gold-plated cups. But none of that was what chilled him. It was the nuggets. That's what they called them. People with no arms, no legs, positioned like decorations. Some wheeled in, some sat on pillows. They weren't just spectators, Clooney said, his voice tightening. They were the centerpiece. Someone told him, laughing, "Don't worry, they volunteered. It's part of the fun." But Clooney didn't laugh. It didn't feel like fun, it felt wrong. Before anyone could access the inner circle, they had to sign an NDA, thicker than a book, enforced by a private intelligence firm. Clooney refused. He expected to be kicked out. Instead, he was escorted to a private lounge with a glass wall. And from there, he watched. What he witnessed still wakes him up at night. People he once respected, actors, moguls, leaders, reduced to animals. And the nuggets passed around like party favors. The judge asked him directly, had he ever participated? No, Clooney said, not once. "I stayed in the lounge, drank my whiskey, left as soon as I could." But that wasn't the end. There were more invitations, more caves, always tied to Diddy. "I thought I was out," Clooney said, but in Hollywood, nothing ends clean. The moment he distanced himself, things started falling apart. Phone calls went unanswered. Projects stalled. A director he had worked with for years suddenly ghosted him. No one said it was Diddy, but Clooney did not need them to. The silence was loud, he said. I was still George Clooney, but there was a cloud, something pulling strings behind the scenes. And worse, he was not the only one. He described another actor, a household name, who confided in him after attending a cave event. That actor spoke to the wrong person about what he'd seen. A week later, his name was smeared in the tabloids with false accusations. Within months, his career imploded. It was too coordinated to be coincidence, Clooney said. This wasn't revenge through violence. It was silence, suggestion, strategic scandal. Through all of it, Clooney had kept a journal. Every canceled deal, every strange PR call, every cryptic message urging him to stay away from certain people. He turned those journal pages over to the court, but that was not all. In 2017, a sealed manila envelope was slipped under his door. No name, no return address, stamped with a black wax seal. Inside were 6 glossy photographs. He brought them to court. Only one photo was cleared for the courtroom. It showed the underground cave, a small stage, a red velvet pillow, and seated on it, a nugget, blindfolded, surrounded by celebrities. What shook me, Clooney said, was not just the scene. It was the man sitting closest to the nugget. Someone America idolized, someone Clooney had worked with. He handed the photo to the judge, under seal, and then he said the words that froze everyone in the courtroom. This was not a prank. This wasn't some photoshopped smear. It was real, and someone wanted me to know it was time to choose a side. In late 2019, just before the world shut down, another package appeared. No return address, no postage stamp, just George Clooney's name, written in delicate cursive. Inside, an unmarked flash drive. No note, no explanation. Nobody knew I was back in LA, Clooney said, not even my agent. He plugged it in, alone, in his study, and what he saw made his skin crawl. It was grainy surveillance footage. No audio, just the red velvet chamber. The circle. One by one, masked figures stepped forward. In the center, a nugget, motionless, displayed like a centerpiece. Then Diddy entered. He walked slowly to the center, removed his mask, and looked straight into the camera. He raised a glass, smiled, and whispered something the camera didn't catch. But Clooney said, I didn't have to hear it. I could feel it. It was a warning. There were no edits, no jump cuts, just a clean, unbroken document of a ritual. Clooney watched it again and again. Then he destroyed the drive. But not before I made copies, he told the court, because that footage was never meant for me. It was a threat. He hired private security, moved his children out of the country, turned down major roles. I went dark, he said, because when you truly say no to the circle, they don't forget you, they remind you. Clooney then revealed one of the most terrifying nights of his life, a night that shattered everything he thought he knew. In 2015, he received a black card, no NDA, no instructions, just 3 words in silver foil. Only the initiated. He didn't plan to attend, but a trusted producer insisted, you have to come. Everything's changing. So Clooney went. The usual eeriness was gone. This time the energy was tense. Diddy arrived late, wearing all white. He was flanked by 2 men, bald in dark glasses. No one spoke to them. The circle was already in motion. Masked celebrities mingled. Nuggets were placed on velvet cushions. Then Diddy raised a glass. Tonight, we prove who belongs. The lights dimmed, the red booth above flickered to life, and then a distorted voice echoed through the chamber. Begin the choosing. Clooney described what followed as a nightmare. Blindfolded participants, some famous, others unknown, were led into the circle. One by one, they were asked questions. If they answered wrong or stayed silent, they were taken away through a side door. None of them returned. I don't know where they went, Clooney said. All I know is 3 of them disappeared from the public eye within weeks. He tried to leave. A guard stopped him. You should stay, the man whispered. You're on the list. I felt like a prisoner, Clooney told the court, and in that moment I realized this wasn't a party. It was a loyalty test, and I passed only because I stayed still and silent. He paused, but my soul did not. After that night, Clooney made a decision. He wouldn't return, not just physically, but morally. I had to dismantle the mythology around him, around all of them. He explained how Hollywood protects itself. It's not just NDAs or contracts, it's favors, press deals, career trade-offs. If you obey, you rise. If you resist, you vanish. Clooney saw it all. He saw people's names disappear from projects. He saw talent erased overnight. He watched it happen at film festivals, premieres, charity galas. He saw silence become a currency. Diddy wasn't the disease, he said. He was the symptom. The real sickness was silence. And then his voice lowered. Silence is how monsters thrive. George Clooney leaned forward, his voice low but clear. I want this court to understand, this wasn't just a cave, it was an operation, designed, engineered, hidden in plain sight. And it wasn't buried under a remote desert or a secret island. According to Clooney, the entrance was beneath one of the busiest family theme parks in the world. Millions walk past it every year, he said. It's practically mocking us. He described a freight elevator, hidden behind a maintenance tunnel. No signs, no lights. It dropped deep underground in total silence. It felt like being dropped into another world, he said, and that's exactly what it was. He and his attorney had sketched the layout, a long central corridor with soundproof rooms, symbols instead of names, and at the end, the circle. A dome-shaped chamber, mirrored walls, velvet flooring. That's where the nugget rituals happened. Everything had structure, rules, rotations, even masks, twisted animal faces, grotesque distortions of humanity. Inside that room, everyone was already compromised. That's how they controlled us. A glass recording booth hovered overhead, tinted windows, red blinking lights. We didn't know who was in there, Clooney said, but we knew we were being recorded. And then he paused. You think Hollywood makes movies about secret societies for fun? He shook his head. It was never fiction. Clooney looked down at his hands. He'd been gripping the edge of the witness stand so tightly, his knuckles were white. There's something I've never told anyone, he said. Not my wife, not my lawyer, not even my closest friends. He described a night in 2019 when he received a delicate package at his Los Angeles home. No sender, no postage, just his name. Inside, a single flash drive, surveillance footage from inside the cave, a slow, rotating camera, masked guests approaching a nugget on a velvet platform. Then, Diddy walked into the frame. He removed his mask, smiled, looked directly into the lens, and whispered something inaudible. I could feel what he meant, Clooney said. It was a message. We know you watched, and now we're watching you. He went dark, hired private security, moved his kids overseas, turned down blockbuster roles. Because when you say no to the circle, they don't erase you, they follow you. Clooney looked down at his hands. He'd been gripping the edge of the witness stand so tightly his knuckles were white. There's something I've never told anyone, he said. Not my wife, not my lawyer, not even my closest friends. He described a night in 2019 when he received a delicate package at his Los Angeles home. No sender, no postage, just his name. Inside, a single flash drive, surveillance footage from inside the cave, a slow rotating camera, masked guests approaching a nugget on a velvet platform. Then, Diddy walked into the frame. He removed his mask, smiled, looked directly into the lens, and whispered something inaudible. I could feel what he meant, Clooney said. It was a message. We know you watched, and now we're watching you. He went dark, hired private security, moved his kids overseas, turned down blockbuster roles. Because when you say no to the circle, they don't erase you, they follow you. The prosecutor asked one final question. Are you afraid of testifying here today? Clooney didn't hesitate. Of course I'm afraid, he said, but I'm more afraid of what happens if no one talks. If we keep clapping at award shows and pretending this industry isn't built on blood. Then he looked directly at the jury, at the cameras, at the world. I may never make another movie again. I may lose everything, but at least I'll have done one thing right. I told the truth. And then for the first time, he turned to Diddy. You were always in the center, always watching, like a king in his cave. Silence gripped the courtroom. No one moved. No one breathed. Because what George Clooney had just revealed wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was testimony. And it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of questions no one in power wanted asked. If this story shocked you, share it. Because if what Clooney said is even partly true, then everything we thought we knew about fame, power, and protection in Hollywood was a carefully engineered lie.